PUTCO says it will not be operating from Thursday. The bus company says the disruption is as a result of unpaid subsidy claims by the Gauteng Department of Roads and Transport. Now, joining us to discuss this a bit more further, we are joined by PUTCO spokesperson Lindokuhle Xulu. Lindokuhle, thank you so much for joining us here on the late edition. Of course, when it comes to such matters, it is indeed the customers here who will be left stranded. If you can just tell us, what is the reasons here you are being given for this situation?
You're quite right, Mbali, when you say it's customers that are left affected. In fact, one of the phrases that was used by a commuter who was venting about how this will impact them, she said that when the parents fight, it is the children that are affected, really. The reason why we are stopping our operations is that we had no choice because we do not have the diesel to actually carry out these operations. And this is due to the fact that we did not receive our March subsidies that we had submitted claims for. And we understand that this is due to processes, internal processes that are at the Department of Roads and Transport in Gauteng. But they have said that these have caused these delays and that the money will be processed soon. But unfortunately for us as a company, we find ourselves in a position where we've dipped into our reserves for the past 2 weeks, and we've been asking for a sort of a reprieve from government, and unfortunately it hasn't come, and that's why you are seeing that our buses will not be operating from tomorrow until further notice, where we receive those monies and we are able to pay our suppliers in order to get that diesel.
And Lindo, which areas will actually be affected by this decision?
All of our operations. You look at Soweto, Eldorado Park, you look at Soshanguve, Kwamhlanga, Ikangala, and Pretoria. All of those areas will be affected. No PUTCO bus will be operating tomorrow. And this is really speaking to the dire situation that we find ourselves in. And like I said, Mbali, it's a matter that we've been trying to have conversations with government about. We've been alerting them about the looming deadline, but unfortunately, we have not had any engagements that have yielded fruitful for us to be able to find ourselves in a better position. And I should say and mention this, that I do not speak for the industry, but this is a compounding matter when it comes to the fact that we haven't received our subsidies. And the big elephant on the room is, in fact, the underfunding of the bus industry since 1997. Those are the some of the contracts that we are operating under that have not taken into account fuel increases. They've not taken into account the ever-growing wage bill that we have. So there's a whole lot of things, including inflation and other things that we can mention that have happened in the past couple of years. But we're operating with outdated contracts here that are putting the bus industry in a difficult position. As far as we know, as PUTCO, we are the 6th company that will not be operating. We know of other bus companies that have not been operating for the past 2 days. We've been able to push until this point, but unfortunately, we are now finding ourselves in a similar situation with other bus colleagues that really are in a dire situation because of the underfunding, and of course, because of reliefs for fuel reliefs that we've asked for that have not really come to fruition. I can tell you that as PUTCO, what we've asked for in the past couple of months is that because we cannot implement a fuel-related increase in its full effect, the government said we must not actually do that because it will eat in the pockets of commuters. So instead, they promised that they would give us relief, but it hasn't come. And that relief for PUTCO is around 180 million. So you can really understand the dire situation that we find ourselves in. And unfortunately, at this time, we cannot absorb anymore, and our fuel tanks in our depots is telling of that situation.
Geez, 180 million there you speak of. You also say that you've had to tap into your reserves. When it comes to salaries, will you be able to pay your drivers for their salaries because of this?
Fortunately, we have been able to pay. You'd understand that it's month end. Our month end ends on the 28th. We've been able to pay our drivers. We've been able to pay all our supporting structures. I'm paid myself. But I can tell you that it was a difficult situation, particularly for the financial director of the company. It's a situation where you have to decide whether you pay suppliers or you pay your workers. But we've tallied all of the pros and cons around what we need to do. And for us, it's important to take care of our staff. It's also important to take note that we've had a lot of challenges in terms of labor as well as unions. So not paying workers at this stage would have brought us more problems than we have right now, which is the issue of just finding ourselves with the money to buy diesel. So there's difficult decisions that had to be made, but I should stress that this particular point that we find ourselves in is not a decision. It is merely a situation that we simply cannot take any other move except to stop our buses, because when it comes to diesel, you need diesel to operate the bus. The bus needs diesel to move. So if there is no diesel, we can't move. Government had called us a few times saying that we need to operate, we must operate, but it's as simple as saying the vehicle does not have fuel and therefore it cannot move.
And Lindo, I've just seen the Gauteng government has released a statement this evening, and they are saying that they have indeed paid this money, and it will only reflect on the 8th of May, and this is going to be on Monday. Did they communicate this to you?
That communication has been received, I understand, late this evening. It has also been received through those media statements, as well as an interview that I saw in one of the television stations where the HOD of the department went out to say that they are going to, they've paid and that the money is going to reflect in 3 days' time on Monday. But I think from our side as a PUTCO, we don't want to point fingers. We don't want to be seen as a delinquent among contract holders within some of these provinces. But we must say that it's quite disappointing that we are receiving this much information, we're receiving all sorts of communication when we have started these negotiations, when we started to alert them of this looming deadline of the petrol depleting or the diesel depleting in our business units. We alerted them 2 weeks ago. We've been sending each and every day communications to say that we are going to be in a position like this. And only now when we release statements and when we share this information with the public, when we inform our passengers that we receive some sort of communication in terms of what is happening. Be that as it may, what this basically means for PUTCO is that if the money reflects on Monday, we still need to pay our suppliers. Our suppliers then need to make arrangements to come to our business units and deliver this diesel that is so much needed. So that on its own, it's a process. It's quite disappointing that we don't have a solution right now to carry the 230,000 commuters that we have that are going to be stranded from tomorrow morning.
All right. Of course, that is Lindokuhle, the spokesperson for PUTCO, saying that commuters will be left stranded from tomorrow morning.